What happens when America's sweetheart meets morning television's toughest interviewer, and the conversation takes a shocking turn that nobody saw coming? The Today Show studio became a battlefield when Carrie Underwood sat down with Hoda Kotb for what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview, but instead turned into one of the most explosive moments in morning television history. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this story will leave you speechless. The morning started like any other at the Today Show studios in Rockefeller Plaza. Carrie Underwood arrived early, her usual professional demeanor intact, as she prepared for what her team had scheduled as a standard interview to promote her upcoming tours. The country superstar had done hundreds of these appearances over her career, and this one seemed no different from the rest. Hoda Kotb, known for her warm personality and easygoing interview style, was set to conduct the segment during the show's third hour. But something was off from the moment Carrie walked into the studio. The usual pre-interview chit-chat felt strained, though neither woman seemed to acknowledge it directly. Carrie settled into her chair across from Hoda, adjusting her blazer and checking her hair one final time before the cameras rolled. The production crew counted down, and suddenly they were live to millions of viewers across America. "Good morning, everyone. I'm here with the incredible Carrie Underwood. Hoda began with her trademark smile. "Carrie, thank you so much for being here with us today." "Thanks for having me, Hoda," Carrie replied, though her smile seemed more forced than usual. "Always a pleasure to be on the Today Show. Now, you have this amazing tour coming up, and I know your fans are incredibly excited, but I want to start with something that's been making headlines recently. There have been some reports about changes in your personal life, some speculation about your marriage. How do you handle all that scrutiny?" Carrie's posture stiffened slightly. "Well, Hoda, I think that's really getting into territory that I prefer to keep private. I'm here to talk about my music and my tour, not tabloid gossip, of course." Of course, Hoda nodded, but her tone suggested she wasn't backing down. "But as a public figure, don't you think your fans deserve some transparency? I mean, they invest emotionally in your story. They buy your albums. They come to your concerts because they feel connected to you as a person." "I absolutely appreciate my fans," Carrie said, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "But there's a difference between sharing my music and my art with them and having every aspect of my personal life dissected for entertainment." Hoda leaned forward slightly. "But Carrie, you've built your entire brand around being relatable, around singing songs about real life, real relationships, real heartbreak. When you sing about revenge and moving on from cheating partners, people assume those songs come from personal experience. Are you saying they don't?" "I'm saying that my songs tell stories," Carrie replied, her jaw tightening. "Sometimes they're my stories, sometimes they're other people's stories, sometimes they're completely fictional. That's what songwriters do, Hoda. We create art, right? But when you won American Idol all those years ago, you were this small-town girl from Oklahoma with these wholesome values. Your image has been built on authenticity. So when there are questions about whether that authenticity extends to your personal life, isn't that fair game for discussion?" The tension in the room was becoming palpable. Carrie shifted in her chair, her media training clearly warring with her growing frustration. "I think you're confusing authenticity with having no boundaries whatsoever. I can be genuine and honest with my fans without putting every detail of my private life on display." "But see, that's where I'm confused." Hoda pressed on, seemingly oblivious to or ignoring the warning signs, "because just last month you posted on social media about the importance of honesty and transparency in relationships. You talked about how lies and deception destroy trust. Were you speaking generally, or were you speaking from experience?" Carrie's eyes flashed. "Are you seriously psychoanalyzing my social media posts right now? I'm asking legitimate questions that your fans want answers to." Hoda shot back. "This morning we had dozens of people calling in and writing to us asking about these exact topics. They want to know if their role model is practicing what she preaches. My role model status doesn't give anyone the right to pry into my marriage," Carrie said, her voice rising slightly. "And frankly, I'm surprised that you would ambush me like this when your producers told my team this would be focused on the tour." "Nobody's ambushing anyone," Hoda replied coolly. "These are questions that any entertainment journalist would ask. If you can't handle basic questions about your public persona, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Carrie stared at Hoda for a long moment, and viewers at home could practically see the steam rising. The camera caught every micro-expression, every tightening of facial muscles, every shift in body language that signaled. This interview was about to go completely off the rails. "Excuse me," Carrie's voice cut through the studio air like a blade. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees as America's Sweetheart transformed before millions of viewers' eyes. "Did you just suggest that I can't handle basic questions?" Hoda realized she may have pushed too far, but her journalistic instincts kicked in. "I'm simply saying that public figures need to expect public scrutiny. It comes with the territory." "Public scrutiny is one thing," Carrie fired back, leaning forward in her chair. "Deliberately misleading me about the nature of this interview is something else entirely. You and your producers told my team this would be about my tour, my music, my upcoming projects. Instead, you're sitting here trying to dissect my marriage like it's some kind of soap opera." "Carrie, I understand you're upset, but no, you don't understand," Carrie interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "You don't understand what it's like to have every single aspect of your life picked apart by strangers. You don't understand what it's like to have people make assumptions about your most personal relationships based on song lyrics or social media posts." Hoda's expression hardened. "Actually, Carrie, I do understand. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've had my own personal life scrutinized, my own relationships questioned. The difference is, I don't make millions of dollars singing songs about those experiences and then act surprised when people want to know more." The studio crew exchanged nervous glances. This was live television, and both women seemed to have forgotten that millions of people were watching their professional facades crumble in real time. "So you think making money from my art gives you the right to ambush me?" Carrie's voice was dangerously quiet now. "You think success means I surrender my right to privacy?" "I think authenticity means being consistent," Hoda replied. Carrie's intensity: "You can't build a career on being the girl next door, on singing about real emotions and real experiences, and then shut down the moment someone asks you about those real experiences." "My music speaks for itself," Carrie said through gritted teeth. "I don't owe you or anyone else a detailed breakdown of my personal life." "But you do owe your fans honesty," Hoda pressed. "These people have supported you for nearly 2 decades. They've bought your albums, attended your concerts, defended you online. When they have genuine questions about whether the person they've been supporting is who she claims to be, don't they deserve answers?" Carrie stood up abruptly, her microphone nearly pulling her back down as the cord went taut. "Are you questioning my integrity?" "I'm questioning your consistency," Hoda replied, remaining seated but clearly not backing down. "You've made a fortune selling authenticity, but the moment someone asks you to actually be authentic, you hide behind privacy concerns." "Privacy concerns?" Carrie's voice cracked with disbelief. "Wanting to keep my marriage out of the tabloids is a privacy concern. Not wanting to discuss every rumor and piece of gossip is hiding. When those rumors directly contradict the image you've built your career on, yes," Hoda said bluntly, "your fans have a right to know if the woman they've been looking up to is living the values she sings about." The words hit Carrie like a physical blow. For a moment, she stood frozen, processing what had just been said. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely controlled fury. "How dare you suggest that I'm not living my values? How dare you sit there and imply that I'm some kind of fraud because I won't give you intimate details about my personal life?" "I'm not calling you a fraud," Hoda said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm asking you to address the disconnect between your public persona and your private actions." "What disconnect?" Carrie demanded. "What private actions? You're basing this entire line of questioning on tabloid speculation and gossip. You have no facts, no evidence, nothing but rumors, and you're treating them like they're gospel truth. The facts are that you've been photographed without your wedding ring multiple times recently," Hoda stated, matter-of-factly. "The facts are that your husband hasn't appeared at any of your recent public events. The facts are that you've been spotted having what appeared to be heated conversations with your management team. These aren't rumors, Carrie. These are observable realities." Carrie's face flushed red. "So you've been having me followed. You've been analyzing my jewelry choices and tracking my husband's schedule. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This obsessive need to turn every aspect of my life into content for your show." "Nobody's following you," Hoda replied coolly. These observations come from publicly available photographs and social media posts. Information that's already out there. Information that's being weaponized against me in this interview, Carrie shot back. You're using paparazzi photos and social media stalking to build a case against my character. I'm using available information to ask reasonable questions, Hoda insisted. Questions that your fans are asking. My fans trust me, Carrie said firmly. My real fans understand that there's a difference between my public persona and my private life. They don't need me to justify every decision I make or explain every photograph that gets taken. But apparently some of them do, because they're the ones reaching out to us asking these questions. Carrie laughed bitterly. Right, because everything viewers call in about is automatically legitimate journalism. I suppose if someone called in asking about my grocery shopping habits, you'd consider that newsworthy too. If your grocery shopping habits contradicted the image you've built your career on, then yes, it might be worth discussing, Hoda replied without missing a beat. The comment landed like a slap. Carrie stood there for a moment, staring at Hoda with a mixture of disbelief and rage. The studio had gone completely silent except for the hum of cameras that continued rolling, capturing every second of this career-defining moment. You know what, Hoda? Carrie's voice was deadly calm now, the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm breaks. I think I'm starting to understand what this is really about. Hoda shifted uncomfortably in her chair, perhaps sensing that the tables were about to turn. What do you mean? This isn't about journalism, Carrie continued, her eyes never leaving Hoda's face. This isn't about serving my fans or asking legitimate questions. This is about ratings. This is about creating a moment that will go viral, something that will get people talking about the Today Show. That's ridiculous, Hoda protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm doing my job as a journalist. Your job as a journalist, Carrie repeated, her tone dripping with disdain, is ambushing your guests part of journalism school curriculum. Is misleading people about interview topics considered ethical journalism? Nobody misled you, Hoda insisted, but she was clearly on the defensive now. Current events and personal life questions are standard in entertainment interviews. Standard? Carrie's voice rose again. There's nothing standard about this hit job you're trying to pull. You've turned what was supposed to be a promotional interview into an interrogation based on tabloid gossip. I'm asking questions that what? Carrie cut her off sharply. That will generate controversy. That will get clips shared on social media. That will boost your show's profile at the expense of my reputation. Hoda's face reddened. My show doesn't need to manufacture controversy to be successful. Really? Carrie laughed harshly. Because that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're trying to create drama where none exists. Trying to turn speculation into scandal. I'm trying to get honest answers from someone who's built a career on supposed honesty, Hoda fired back, her composure finally cracking. If you have nothing to hide, why are you so defensive? Because I shouldn't have to defend my private life to you or anyone else, Carrie exploded. Because the fact that you think I owe you explanations about my marriage, my relationships, my personal choices, shows exactly what's wrong with this industry. The industry that's made you incredibly wealthy, Hoda shot back. The industry that's given you a platform to influence millions of people. The industry that apparently thinks wealth and influence mean I've signed away my right to basic human dignity, Carrie countered. The industry that thinks fame is a contract to expose every aspect of my life for public consumption. You chose this life, Hoda said coldly. Nobody forced you to become a public figure. I chose to share my music, Carrie replied, her voice shaking with anger. I didn't choose to have my marriage dissected on morning television by someone who's clearly more interested in creating drama than doing actual journalism. Actual journalism involves asking difficult questions, Hoda insisted. Not just softball questions about tour dates and album releases. Difficult questions based on facts, not tabloid speculation, Carrie shot back. What you're doing isn't journalism. It's gossip mongering dressed up as news. The accusation hung in the air between them. Hoda's face went through several expressions: anger, hurt, and finally, defiance. You know what, Carrie? If you can't handle the heat, maybe you shouldn't be in the kitchen. This is what professional entertainers deal with. This is part of the job. No, Carrie said firmly, reaching up to remove her microphone. This is what unprofessional journalists think entertainers should deal with. This is what happens when ratings matter more than respect. "Where are you going?" Hoda asked, as Carrie started to stand. "We're not finished here." "Yes, we are," Carrie replied, pulling the microphone pack from her belt. "I'm not going to sit here and be ambushed on live television by someone who clearly has an agenda. You're walking out on a live interview." Hoda's voice rose in disbelief. "You're going to storm off because I asked you legitimate questions?" "I'm walking out on an ambush, disguised as an interview," Carrie corrected, placing her microphone on the side table. "I'm walking out on a journalist who thinks misleading guests and manufacturing controversy is acceptable behavior. This is incredibly unprofessional," Hoda called after her as Carrie moved toward the edge of the set. "Your fans are watching this." Carrie turned back one final time, her eyes blazing. "My fans will understand that I refuse to be disrespected on national television. They'll understand that standing up for yourself isn't unprofessional. It's necessary, so you're just going to run away." Hoda pressed, making one last attempt to keep the confrontation going. "You're going to avoid accountability by walking off." "I'm going to maintain my dignity," Carrie replied coolly. "Something you've clearly forgotten how to do." With that, she turned and walked off the set, leaving Hoda sitting alone at the interview desk. The cameras continued rolling as Hoda struggled to regain her composure, clearly unprepared for how to handle a guest walking out during a live broadcast. "Well," Hoda finally said to the camera, her voice strained, "that's not how we expected this interview to go. We'll be right back after this commercial break." The moment the cameras stopped rolling, the studio erupted in chaos. Production assistants scrambled to figure out how to fill the remaining segment time while producers huddled together discussing damage control. Carrie was already gone, having left the building without speaking to anyone from the show's staff. The confrontation became an instant sensation, with clips appearing on social media within minutes. The question on everyone's mind was whether Hoda had crossed a professional line or if Carrie had overreacted to standard interview questions. The debate would rage for days, but one thing was certain: this was a moment that would define both women's careers. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Was Hoda right to push for answers, or did she cross the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more shocking celebrity moments that you won't believe actually happened.